Hello and welcome back to the channel. My name is JJ the Bearded Bookworm, and today I'm going to be talking about Red Rising by Pierce Brown. Red Rising is the debut novel of Pierce Brown. It is the first book in the Red Rising trilogy. When I first heard about this book, I was super hesitant to read it because the first book doesn't get very good reviews overall. However, the consensus across the board is that the first book is not indicative of how the story goes and how the series goes. The first book feels very YA, which there's nothing wrong with that. However, it's very consistent with other popular YA books that involve teenagers and contests. This book is told from a first-person perspective, and we follow our main character, Darrow. Now, this story takes place in the future, and man has started to colonize the galaxy. Now, this group, the Reds, it's kind of like their class in society. They have been sent to Mars to start mining and preparing the terraforming for the softer colors, is what they're referred to. The ones that aren't as tough and resilient in order to get it ready so that man can actually move from Earth and start to colonize on Mars. Now, the one virtue that is taught and upheld above all others is obedience. Knowing your place and obeying the laws and rules that are set forth so that mankind as a whole can rise and flourish. Any sort of dissension or rebellion is the greatest offense because it not only hurts you, but it hurts Mars as a whole. And I talked about reds and then the softer colors. There are lots of colors in this society where reds are the bottom, and as you go farther up, more powerful, there's different, each color deals with a different aspect of society. You have your golds that are the top of the top. They are the ones, and even in the golds, there are different ranks of gold as well. You also have your pinks that are kind of like your prostitutes. You have your obsidians that are like your elite soldiers. Like, you don't want to get in a fight with them. They've been like bioengineered. They've got like a bajillion fingers on their hands, and then they're just like 8 feet tall and just massive like hulks. And your other real main one in the beginning are the Greys. The Greys are basically your guards, your policemen, that kind of role in society. They're kind of like your general low-level law enforcement. So, Darrow, like I said, is the main character. He's the one that we follow. And the story starts out, he is a helldiver. Helldivers are the ones that go to the very bottom of mine shafts and are operating these giant robotic tentacle drills. And it's the most dangerous job of everything because you're right down in the middle of it, and if you hit a gas pocket or anything like that, you explode. As well as you're down where there's these pit vipers that can basically, they're essentially our vipers here on Earth, but got taken to Mars and now are much longer, and basically they'll bite and burrow and lay eggs inside of bodies. So Darrow is 16 years old, married, has a young wife, and outside of mining and doing the work, it's all about family. You basically have your family, then your clan, then your class, which is Reds. Now, Darrow's wife, Ao, is a bit of a revolutionary or a radical thinker. Ao is of the belief that the Reds are the ones working in the dirt in Mars to prep and to just give it over to their overlords, and they're not even going to reap the benefits of Mars. Now, even just thinking this is that dissentive thought that is highly discouraged. And even as she's talking to Darrow about it, Darrow starts getting mad at her and will be like, how dare you talk like that? Like, that's not what we're here for. So they're having this argument, and a little snippet of it's on the back of the book. They are arguing about what their purpose in life is, and Ao, his Daro's wife, puts forth, we're born in the dirt, we work in the dirt, and then we die in the dirt. How is that life? And so she asks him what he lives for, and he asks her, basically throws the question right back at her, and she says, I live for the dream that my children will be born free, that they will be what they like, that they will own the land their father gave them. I live for you, Daro says sadly. Ao kisses his cheek. Then you must live for more. And so they're having this conversation, and they're having the conversation in this like secret garden that the Greys have, and they're not even supposed to know about it. That garden's not even supposed to be allowed to exist on Mars yet, based on what the Reds have been taught and told. And they get caught sneaking into this garden, and then they're captured, they're both beaten, and there is this forbidden song that Ao sings. And by doing this and singing this song, she is killed. And Daro loses his bloody damn mind. At that point, Daro gets taken into this rebellion to say, we need you. With your help, we can take down the Golds. We can reclaim Mars as ours. We don't need to be slaves to the Golds. We can be free. Our people can be free. And so Red Rising is the start of that story of Daro starting this rebellion to try to take down the Golds. Now, as far as the story, the first 50 pages of this book are a work of art. Like, it's the most beautiful, emotional story I've ever read in my life. And essentially what I've told that summary is those first 50 pages. And I feel like you could take that and make it its own story by itself, like a little short story, and it's fantastic. There's nothing else that needs to be said. I have no idea if this is actually how this happened, but I know some authors, as they're going through, especially when they're trying to get published, and it's like their first published works, they'll start writing a little bit, and then they'll come back and edit, and then they'll write a little bit more and go back and edit the whole thing again, and on and on and on, to where that first bit, that first part that got written gets edited so much that that first little bit is fantastic. Whereas later on, they get to the end of the book, it just does not look over as much because, it's the end of the story. So, as a father, as a husband, as somebody who holds family extremely dear and important, that first little section, you get so emotionally invested, not only in Daro, but in Ao and everything, to where I'm hooked for this entire, at least this trilogy, because I can see myself in those characters' shoes, especially Daro. With everything that happens, I completely understand the rage that he feels going forward. And I was a little disappointed when I got to that middle section, because the first little bit is interesting because they're prepping him to start this rebellion and infiltrate the Golds. But then it's like there's this contest, and that's like 400 pages almost. Like, it's so long. And I understand why it had to be that way, because you have to set up the brutality that the Gold Society has. But it just lost me. There was so much back and forth. It's hard to imagine, because these kids have been, genetically engineered, they've taken steroids, everybody's a genius, but they're making such stupid decisions. And it's like back and forth and back and forth. It goes on, and it goes for so long, and it's all from Daro's perspective, so you're hearing his thoughts. You're being told everything from his perspective, and yet you get reminded so little of the whole point of it, which is he's trying to infiltrate the Golds so that he can take down as many as possible and basically overthrow them and free his people. Even Daro himself goes back and forth of like, oh, these people aren't that bad. Oh, I'm going to kill them all. Back and forth. And you're just like, I just really didn't enjoy that middle section. Those last 50 pages when we finally were like, all right, enough talk, let's fight, let's get everything done. Fantastic, once again. I honestly would be completely done with this series, except everybody and their mother says the next 2 books aren't anything like this. They're so much better, and it kind of goes from that like YA spectrum straight up into like adult, almost grimdark storytelling. I don't know where I stand with Red Rising, the book, because those first 50 pages are fantastic. I couldn't praise them anymore. But the rest of the book is so frustrating. Honestly, I don't know. I'll probably have to come back to this in future reviews of Golden Sun and Morningstar, because this book itself I didn't enjoy that much. Very much a like U-shape where, the beginning's great, the middle just loses me, and then the end is satisfying enough. So I have started Golden Sun. I'm only like, the first chapter or something like that. But I'm excited because it takes that first book and you go forward, a few years, and then it continues on. And at least from this first chapter, it's very exciting. We're much more adults in this book. So hopefully I feel differently about this series as a whole. And like everybody else, I say, the Red Rising series is fantastic. The first book is meh, but the rest of it makes up for it tenfold. Well, there you have it. That's my review of Red Rising by Pierce Brown. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you haven't already, and drop a comment down below. Let me know if you've read this book, and if you have, let me know what you liked, what you didn't like, who your favorite characters were. And if you haven't read the book, let me know if it's something that you're thinking about picking up. I'm JJ the Bearded Bookworm, and I'll see you tomorrow.